All right, if we know one thing about Donald Trump, it's that during times of crisis, he has a very steady hand. He's very rational. I can't even say that with a straight face. This dude is losing his mind day by day, and it's only compounded by the fact that the stock market is crashing, that our allies are pushing back, and that the NATO Secretary General even had to push back during their Oval Office meeting today because Trump kept floating the idea of the US taking Greenland with the help of NATO. And keep in mind, the US-NATO relationship is at a weak spot, right? It's uniquely fragile at the moment due to Donald Trump pushing our allies away. So the NATO Secretary General came to meet with Donald Trump, and it got spicy at a few points. I want to break this all down, and I want to break down the pushback that Donald Trump's been getting, and pressure is mounting. It's easy to campaign and make all of these promises, but when you're sitting in the hot seat and the stock market is crashing and your economic promises are falling through and not being realized, it gets very, very intense. The pressure begins to mount. So drop a like, drop some blue hearts, and before we watch this video and break down the whole Greenland situation, did you guys hear about Jamie Dimon, the JP Morgan CEO, who is now raising concerns about tariffs after telling people to get over it a few months ago? So Jamie Dimon is the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, and 2 months ago, he had a curt message for people who were unhappy with the president. He said, quote, "Get over it. Just get over it." That is what JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon said for people protesting Donald Trump's tariff policy. But with stock markets lower and cracks appearing to form in the US economy, Dimon himself may not be over it. And when you're making these economic promises, it's easy to get CEOs and millionaires, billionaires on your side, but when you begin to tank the S&P 500, when you begin to tariff enemies that Apple or that Microsoft relies on, then yeah, you're gonna get some pressure from the CEOs that you once thought were your friends. Quote, "I don't think the average American consumer who wakes up in the morning and goes to work changes what they're going to do because they read about tariffs," Dimon said in an interview on Wednesday. "But I think companies might," he added. "Uncertainty is not a good thing." Dimon appeared to shift his focus on tariffs after the CEO of America's largest bank said, JP Morgan Chase, said to, quote, "get over it" a few months back when discussing tariffs. He said they could be an economic tool or an economic weapon. He said that a few months back, quote, "I would put it in perspective. If it's a little inflationary, but it's good for national security, so be it. National security trumps a little bit inflation," said Jamie Dimon. But now Trump's on and off tariff policy has caused a lot of volatility in the stock market. And Jamie Dimon is not as laissez-faire as he was a few months ago. I mean, once he actually felt the impact of the Trump tariffs, he seems to be not liking the uncertainty. And here's the thing, businesses thrive in a certain predictable environment. When you know how many resources to allocate to this, how many funds you can put towards this, or how much you need to import of this, you begin to build efficient protocols. You begin to have expectations. But when your expectations are subverted month by month, and I'm not even talking about expectations being uprooted just once. Trump is doing this crazy on-off tariff thing that is really messing with the heads of CEOs. So on Wednesday, Trump imposed sweeping 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imported into the United States. All steel and aluminum, blanket tariffs on steel and aluminum, the latest round of tariffs in a global trade war. And Dimon has not been the only CEO sounding off about the risks of tariffs. Even Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, which is the world's largest asset manager, said he believed the economy was weakening due to Trump's tariffs. Oh, I'm sure that our stable, steady-handed president is going to take this pushback completely normally, right? I'm sure he's going to listen to the people around him. No, wrong. Obvious sarcasm. Check out what Donald Trump did in the Oval Office today. Now, this ties in to the NATO Secretary General also giving Trump a little bit of pushback. Take a look at this.
Greenland. What is your vision for the potential annexation of Greenland and getting them potentially to
Well, I think it'll happen, and I'm just thinking, I didn't give it much thought before, but I'm sitting with a man that could be very instrumental. You know, Mark, we need that for international security, not just security, international. We have a lot of our favorite players, cruising around the coast, and we have to be careful. And we'll be talking to you. And it's a very appropriate, really a very appropriate question.
And it's
Thank
an issue
you
in the
very
high
much.
north, so the Arctic. So what you did. So when it comes to Greenland, yes or not joining the US, I would leave that outside for me this discussion because I don't want to drag NATO in that. But when it comes to the high north and the Arctic, you are totally right.
I'm telling you, Trump just got shot down. What the NATO Secretary General said was, let's leave that outside this conversation. NATO has nothing to do with your Greenland fantasy. He didn't call it a fantasy, but he said, let's leave that outside of the conversation with NATO. That has nothing to do with what we are talking about here, because again, they are weird imperial fantasies on Trump's behalf. My personal belief is that Trump really wants to secure his legacy as one of the few US presidents who gained more territory, and he thinks that Greenland and Panama are his path to doing that. Trump looks through everything. Trump looks at everything through the lens of legacy, and how can I improve my image, or be more powerful, or have a better, long-lasting legacy. I really do think it's as simple as that. Yes, Greenland does have security benefits for us, but there are allies. We don't even have to take them over. We can just ask them, yo, can we put some more troops over there? And they'd be like, sure. They'd be like, sure, America. You're one of our closest allies and you have been for decades. Of course you can put more troops in our country, but no, Trump would rather just make threats. And I'm not even gonna play this clip, but look at Trump on tariff said during the same meeting, Canada only works as a state. Oh, Canada, the national anthem, I love it. Keep it, but it will be for the state. It's not a joke anymore, y'all. It never was a joke. I hate when Trump supporters are always like, don't take him seriously. He's just being sarcastic. At what point do we just say that it's absurd, that we can't even trust what the president of the United States is saying? Not just because he's lying, but because they claim that he's sarcastic all of the time. So between Trump's remarks on Canada, when he said Canada only works as a state, between his remarks to the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, where he said maybe NATO can help us with Greenland, what does that even mean? Greenland is a part of Denmark. Denmark has been a part of NATO for a while. They are one of our closest allies. If Article 5 is used for the first time since 9/11 and it's against an attack from the US, then we truly are absolutely cooked. But to take it all back, I truly do think Trump is one of those guys that begins to choke under pressure. So when things get a little bit tough in the broader environment, whether we're talking about COVID, when the COVID disaster hit, when the DC plane crash hit, you can see a pattern in the way that Trump responds when there's pressure. When there's pressure on the country, pressure on him to step up to the plate, he never can. So now that the economy is swirling down the drain, now that CEOs are putting pressure on him, and multiple CEOs. Remember, the Target CEO came out last week and said, yeah, our prices are going to be going up. People in NATO are like, dude, you got to stop doing this. Other allied countries are distancing themselves, and that further hurts our economy. Everything is coming together to really, really not look good for Trump, and it's going to be interesting to see how he reacts over the next month. All that I ask from you guys is to drop a like, subscribe, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.